miss us? Hopefully you did. We missed doing this, so sorry we took a week off last week, but we are back.
Yes, we are.
And better than ever before, I think. So Kara was doing some traveling.
I was.
Yeah, happy
to be back.
Have her back home and in the office and getting some good stuff done this week.
Yeah.
So
getting back into it.
Yeah. So we are back here with our 5-minute-ish Fri YAY. Today is going to be probably more like 15 or 20 minutes. Definitely a big-ish on this one, so sit back and enjoy the show because we have some great information to share with you today. Well, actually, over the next several weeks, our topic is going to be about branding.
Woo.
I know that's your jam.
It is my jam.
And so I know you're excited, but I'm excited too because this is a really important piece to a business. And so we're going to talk a little bit about why it means so much to have a strong brand for your company or organization and some of the different aspects and considerations to make as you're building that brand.
Right.
So that's what we're going to dig into today. So hope you enjoy it. If you have questions, shout them out in the comments below and we'll be happy to answer those for you and get you more resources and tools and ideas along the way. So
yeah, because this is the most crucial. Besides the idea behind your business, this is the next biggest thing to set up everything.
Right. So what is a brand guru?
Well, a brand is a name, symbol, or design that represents your business. It's the, knowing your niche. It's what differentiates you from other businesses as well. It's what gives you your customer to know who you are, what you want to be perceived as.
Right, so it's so much more. I say this all the time and it sounds really redundant at this point for me, but it is so much more than a logo.
It is colors, typography, what your message conveys, your tagline. It is the whole debacle.
The whole enchilada. Mm-hmm.
Even down to what goes, if you have a physical location, what goes in the physical location.
Right.
Your website, your social media, your print work that you pass out, your messaging that you tell people when you are networking. It's everything.
It's everything. And that all comes together as your brand identity. It's how people perceive your business or how they feel about doing business with you.
Emotions are a very big part of this, which no one really thinks of.
Absolutely. And I really like the way that you describe it too, and about it being your promise to your customer.
It is. It's the promise to your customer that this is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we can and will do for you. And you want that to be a strong conveying message, and having that come across in your brand is very important.
You also
and being true to your brand.
You also want that to be consistent.
Yes, consistency is key.
Cross platforms.
You're going to get so tired of hearing us say that over the next few weeks, but it truly is the key to everything for the rest of your business's career, unless you at some point rebrand.
It needs to be recognizable. So, fun fact, the average American comes across somewhere, I've seen numbers from 8,000 to 10,000, somewhere in there, brand images a day.
Yes.
That's an obscene amount.
Think about it. If you go to the grocery store, how many are you being exposed to?
Right.
Thousands. Every individual can, bottle, price tag, sticker is an individual brand for that company, and some companies have a larger overhead and have different brands underneath them that are individually branded.
Right. Even sitting here in the BizConnect office right now where we're shooting this video, we have the BizConnect logo up on the wall.
Match.
All the colors.
So we have
the event sponsor banner over here with all of these logos on it. You can see on the door all of the tenants here have their information. So, I mean, there's probably a good 100 brand messages in front of us right here just in this office. So you walk out into the street in the Palace shops and there's Baker's Crest and there's all the branding on the vehicles in the parking lot and all the stickers and decals on those vehicles.
Oh, right.
So it's easy to see when you think about it in those terms of how many images we come across in a day.
We're exposed to.
So one of the questions is, how do you stand out in that crowd?
Exactly.
Consistency.
Consistency is the biggest key. And being true to yourself and being strong in your message, that's the biggest thing.
Right. And so with that, oh, my battery is dying. Oops. With that, a big part of that in the design and naming is the design and naming process of starting to kick off some kind of brand identity project, thinking about not only the name of your business and what does that convey to people,
Right.
but what is the visual representation as well?
Correct. It has to convey, you know, not only emotions and everything that we already discussed, but what the purpose of your company is. You know, the name and the image also need to work very well together. They need to comply on the
It
same line.
needs to be clear. So I'll throw myself under the bus on this one and use myself as a negative example. Well, actually kind of a positive one in the end because it shows the transformation of things over time. But once upon a time when I started my freelance gig it's almost been 9 years that technically we've been in business. And so about 9 years ago when we started, you know, if you've ever read the Create Captivate blogs, you know that I was very fortunate to have a client before I even had a business. Mm-hmm. And so when that happened, I didn't have time to think and plot and plan and put all these things into place of like thinking about a business name. I was just like, oh, my friend Kyle always called me Happy Casey, so I'm going to name the business Happy Casey Productions because I don't really know what I want to do with it quite at this point, but I feel like that's a word that covers a lot of things. And so I ran with it,
Right.
and it was called Happy Casey Productions, and that worked decently for a long time. Right? But as my kind of vision for it grew and my experience got stronger and I understood kind of the direction that I wanted to go with things, it was fine for where I was and what I was doing. But I went through Marcia Brody, shout out to Marcia Brody, from her Ditch the Pitch workshop, and very quickly understood with the help of her genius expertise and guidance that if I wanted to play in a bigger pool and play on a different level, that wasn't going to work for me anymore. So that's when we started the rebrand process, which eventually became Create Captivate.
Which can be a common thing that people do. But that brings us into the next section of timelines.
Right.
And why it's important to make sure that you put your all into branding sometimes in the first time. It's always important to try to do your hardest the first time and try to do the most.
Because I will tell you, rebranding when you have an established business, even as baby as it was, and it was a bunch of freelancing, it was, you know, not nearly what it is today and how much we've grown since then, but it was a lot of work to rebrand everything from the process of setting up the DBA. It's still Happy Casey Productions LLC, but the DBA is Create Captivate, and setting that up with the city and the state and the SEC, and then you think about the website and redesigning
and
that.
the print work, and you have to reprint all your
Business
materials,
cards,
and you
marketing collateral.
You have to contact everyone that you've already met to tell them that your business is changing.
Right.
Think about how much money all of that is.
And it's very expensive to do. Luckily for me, I can design my own stuff, but for the rest of you, that
may not be the case.
Right, that's a big consideration to think about. So doing it right from the get-go is important. If you can't do that, if you just need to get it out there, then that's okay, but just
know
be
that one day you
mindful.
might have to rebrand.
Right, might have to rebrand. And as far as timelines go,
They pay off in the long run. If sometimes you put the extra time and effort into branding in the beginning, it pays off in the long run because then you will not have to rebrand. You won't have to, you know, if you do the fast track, sometimes things get lost in the middle and then you're like, well, I have all of these colors going on, or I have all these fonts and nothing is following, it's not consistent.
cohesive.
And so you have to rebrand. You're spending the extra time and money in the beginning will pay you off in the long run because it'll save you time and money from having to redo all those things. And also sometimes it'll save you clients. And if you go ahead and spend the time and money up front, sometimes it can make your clientele start off larger than it would if you didn't.
Right. Sometimes I think about if I had really taken the time to develop that brand from the beginning, and make it much stronger and make it make sense to people. So the feedback that I got, this was the issue when I was in that workshop, was Marcia said, before she explains what she does, can the rest of the class maybe guess what kind of work she does? And it was everything from like, do you throw little kids parties? And I was like, no, definitely not a kid person. And then there was a question of, well, do you do video production? And I was like, no, but I wish I knew how to do that. So there was just a lot of confusion in the way, to me, that it made sense versus the client perspective, or how they perceived it. So it's really important to think about that up front, and you will save time and money in the long run.
Yes.
And then set yourself up for connecting with people, on
and
a
not
much
having to reach out and contact them, telling it's changing, or them
explain
having issues trying to find you too.
But if you do have to do that, one thing that I learned through that was I used it as an opportunity to have a conversation with people.
True.
So
bring them right back in.
Right. If people that I hadn't spoken with in a while or touched base with in a while, it was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, if you go online and you're looking for us or anything like that, just know that it's a new name now, and it kind of
Works as
can
a marketing tool.
Right. I mean, it can be a big hindrance. It can be a big tool at the same. A good tool for you at the same time. So there are two sides to that coin.
Yeah.
Like anything, I'm all about those silver linings. So another big part of the design and naming process, though, to think about along the way is with that name is, as you're coming across ideas for naming the company, is it even available?
Right.
So one of the first places we check when we get ideas, we've named a couple of companies for clients in the past year. It's been a really fun process.
Yeah.
But one issue that a lot of clients have these days is they have an idea for a name, and then
there's so many of them
It's
and variations, and not even that. Sometimes, we'll spend 4 days, every idea we come up with is already taken. Sometimes
Right.
it just happens, depends on what, niche or field you're in, but there's more and more companies, more and more entrepreneurs, which
Right.
is amazing. We always applaud small businesses and entrepreneurs, but so always make sure, because the last thing you want is to get in there, really brand yourself, and then have to compete for all of the websites in your name with some other company.
So a big part of that is finding the domain name.
And the trademark.
Right, and looking at like the SEC's website and seeing if the LLC name is available and all of that. But with the domains, here's another caveat with that. A lot of times there may not be an LLC or a business associated with that name, but someone has thought that that name was clever or catchy, and they have purchased that domain and want to sell it for several $1,000s, which our clients and us, like, that's not an option.
It's up to you. If that name means everything to you, then by all means.
Go for it. Buy that premium domain. But if you don't have to, don't.
Right.
There
Keep
are
it as a
still
backup.
other ways, other creative ways to come up with something that works for you. Along the same lines as naming and design, I love when we get into color palettes.
It's a lot of fun.
So it is a lot of fun to play with different color palettes and see kind of what, teaching our clients about the emotions that different colors evoke in their audience. So color is closely related and so crucial. The psychology behind color. I would love to teach a workshop on that, actually.
We will. Here in a few months, we will have a Fri YAY on the psychology of color. Maybe a workshop eventually.
Yeah, it could happen. But just making sure that you've chosen colors that really convey the emotions you want your clients to feel. So if you have kind of those dreamy sea glass tones like here in BizConnect, it's just very calm, serene, but cheerful and bold, but not over the top. So I think Laura has done an amazing job, of course, picking her colors, because it really just makes you feel
they're pretty and you're calm,
happy.
but you're also awake and you're happy and you're ready to chat.
Right.
Which is the whole point. Now, how many colors would you suggest to be in a color palette for each brand?
Really, I wouldn't go over typically more than 3 to 5 is generally where I like people to be, because there's enough primary color, like you choose your primary colors and then you have complementary colors that you can add into when you are doing a marketing collateral
Right,
or your website or whatever
a
it might
fun
be.
new campaign. You might not ever
Right.
use the colors, but at least it's pre-planned where if you have a fun new campaign coming up and it's, let's say your usual colors are some shades of blue, but yet your complementary color is like a fun yellow and a fun orange. Well, if it's summertime and you're doing a summertime campaign, you use that pop of yellow.
Perfect.
But it's into your brand.
Right.
And you consistently can use that for other campaigns, so you notice the difference that this is a campaign.
Yeah, I love that so much. I love, but just not going over that mark of 5 is really important. And giving
little
yourself the versatility of at least having 3 to work with is kind of the minimum that we generally advise people to use. Now, typography.
The swept under the rug one.
It is. Why do you think it's swept under the rug? What do you mean by
I
that?
think mainly because from the common eye, when you don't know about it, and especially for me before I went into art school, you know, you see words everywhere, but you know there's different fonts. I mean, when you're a kid and you know you have those computer classes, you pick the most crazy font, but people don't realize how much that plays into branding, and it plays in how different it is on each thing and what the tones. It's one of those things that, like colors, but not even as much, it just kind of gets swept under the rug. You don't think about it as much because it's not as visually appealing.
Right.
You have to think about what you're and you're reading it too, so you're not visually processing the words as much as you're thinking about the words, if that kind of makes sense.
It does make sense. So fonts can really make us feel a certain way. They can make us feel excited,
Sad.
like kind of sad, or
Futuristic.
right, futuristic, bold, energetic, or funky, or
Sometimes also like timelines. Like some fonts can make you feel like they're like old fashioned or
right,
really
right. If you've got that
futuristic.
kind of like rustic feel, if your business has more of kind of a country vibe to it, or
even kind of like a music vibe. I feel like a lot of like covers and music type related things have a certain kind of tone and look towards their fonts and typefaces.
yeah. Typography is really fun. I could go
It
on
is.
about that all day. Do we have
Well,
a
especially
Friday
because
for
it's we do coming
yeah.
up. We have a typography one.
just all
look
type
up
talk? So yeah, that'll be a good time. So when you're getting a brand identity project done, so we see this a lot, and it's unfortunate when it happens, but we just hope that people will take a second and ask some questions along the way. So if you're not going to work, listen, we get it. We're a small company too, with a small budget.
And
so
we live in a fast-paced world.
right. So if you need something really quick, and let's say you go to one of these logo tournament sites, or like a place where you go on and find a freelancer and they bid on your project from you. Go for it, but just know what you're getting into.
Yes.
And know how to get what you need at the end of the day. Whereas if you come to a reputable design company like, I don't know, us, we're going to make sure that you get the files and the formats that you need, that you're going to be able to use in all kinds of applications after that.
Right.
So what are those versions of a logo and design that you might need?
Well, obviously you're going to want your original main logo, but you're going to want a transparent background, which would be a PNG. A JPEG will have a white background because it's an image like a picture. A transparent PNG can go on top of things. For instance, let's say you're a peanut company and I need to take your logo and put it on all of the different packagings for different peanuts that you sell in your store. That would be a PNG because that way the logo doesn't have a background and it can go on any of the individual labels.
It's just an overlay image.
But aside from your original one, you will also need a all white one and an all black one. This way, when you go onto different types of backgrounds and materials, that way it pops and it shows, even for websites, social media, anything like that, or even just like a basic letterhead. Sometimes, you know, black and white, if you know someone's going to print in black and white, you don't want to get them the original because sometimes the shading and stuff won't print right.
Right. Yeah, and then just having that vector image.
Yes.
So that you can take it,
file.
right, the original file that it was designed in Illustrator, being able to take that. So if you want collateral made, if you want t-shirts screen printed, or you need a banner to do a vendor event.
Or again, a campaign and you need to change the campaign color to all yellow.
Right, whatever color that you need, making sure that you have that original file, or those vector images to be able to stretch them to those sizes without them being pixelated and like really
and exporting them
looking.
to the right size.
Right. So that's so important. And we, like I said, we totally understand when clients come to us and they get a quote from us for a brand identity project. It can be pretty pricey because it is such an intensive process.
It is.
And we will pour all of ourselves into it. So
and we let you pour into it too. We want your voice.
We want
it's
to
your
work
project
together.
We want your voice to be heard. And if you go to an online site, that doesn't always get conveyed.
Right. So if you're going to go that route, though, we do offer to clients a consultation.
Yes.
So when they go and they find someone that can do their logo for much, much cheaper than we can and a much quicker turnaround time, great. But just bring it to us. We'll review it.
Yes.
It might take us half an hour to quickly look over and make sure you're getting the kind of files you need, that, you've
getting your money's worth too.
and you're gonna get exactly what you paid for. So we're happy to look that over for anyone who's going through that process. And then, so that kind of goes back to at the end of the day, your brand needs to express who you, especially if you have a personal brand for your company.
Especially personal and small business, but
it really needs to correctly express the tone and the voice and the message across to your audience. And
we want you to be happy with it.
Right.
We want you to be excited and proud of your logo.
Right.
We don't want you to look at it and be like, oh, well, I spent all this time and money. I guess I'll use it.
It's all right. That's the worst. That's the worst nightmare.
Because if that happens, then you gotta rebrand again.
Right. We don't want you to waste your time and money.
No,
So
we're trying to save you money.
that's why we're here to share this information with you, and talk to you.
The importance of it.
Right. And really kind of just give you the basic education so that you can go have an intelligent conversation with whoever you decide to work with, or the multitude of people that you interview before you decide to work with someone.
Right. Finding out those numbers beforehand, and that way you can surprise someone if they're like talking all over you, trying to get you saying big words, and you're like, well, sir, I know exactly what you're saying.
Well, sir.
Like,
so you can have a conversation and communicate clearly and feel confident moving forward into that project. So that's what this is all about. We'll be talking about branding from here on for the next
probably 2 months, maybe.
Yeah, for the next 2 months, which is awesome too. We actually have I'll be part of an event at South University here in Virginia Beach, at the South University location on July 17th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's a free event. You just have to register on Eventbrite, but it's building your brand. And so they've got this panel that I'll be on with, I think, 4 or 5 other experts on branding. And it's not just business branding, it's personal branding, and all of us have a very diverse background and experience level. So it's going to be a good time. And they're going to feed you, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be good networking.
We're always about the food.
So I hope that you'll mark your calendars and join us for that. And I think it's a great time right now around that event to really focus on branding and help people understand all the keys and elements to successfully kicking off a brand identity project.
Right, because at the end of the day, these Fri Yays are just to give you guys some insight and educate you so that you have the right tools and information to make good judgments and calls on your own business.
Yep. One last shameless plug. If you're watching this on Facebook right now, then please know that if you want to learn how to optimize your Facebook page next Thursday, here in this room where we're sitting, the Biz Connect Resource Center in Norfolk, I will be doing a Facebook for beginners, optimizing your page and usage of it workshop. It's 2 hours. The tickets are on bizconnecthr.com. Please come. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's educational. And it's just a good time.
It's a good time.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope that this was helpful. If you have any comments, just go ahead and leave them here and we'll be happy. Or if you want to send a private message, you don't feel comfortable dropping into the comments, send a private message to the page. We will answer you very quickly and help you get straightened out on exactly what you need for a successful brand identity.
And look out for the rest of our branding Fri Yays coming up.
You're going to get so sick about hearing about branding. It's going to be great.
Bye, guys.
All right. Have a great weekend. Bye.